to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from the FantasyJocks.com studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Today's the day. The Fantasy Footballers back again. Another episode of the podcast, and it is NFL Draft Day, Thursday, April 27th. Woo!
I sent in a question.
Didn't you do a dance on draft day one time, Jason?
Every time?
Jason's a big dancer, as we all know. I sent a question. I have some good friends. You may have heard of them, the Beastie Boys.
Yes. Yeah, you're close with them.
I said, guys, how many sleeps? How many sleeps until the draft? And they told me very loudly,
No
sleep still.
Oh, well
Philly.
done. Well done. I thought maybe the Beastie Boys were I thought that was maybe tied into like Beast Mode.
No, we'll get there, I'm
We'll
sure.
get there.
I'm sure. Where's the confetti cannons in this office?
You know, what happened was I feel like I prematurely celebrated so many times that it would be inappropriate to spend all the show doing it today, so you're not going to get
Yeah.
I mean, people have been saying
not buying
wrong. I mean,
not
but
buying this for a moment. I know something's going to happen.
No, I don't have any plans, man. It's all about the NFL Draft today. Andy, Mike, and Jason bringing it to you. And look, this show.
If I say his name, is that when the ooze drops on me?
That would be you're going.
We really did miss the boat with Mike was even late this morning. We could have set up all sorts of surprises.
I had an hour. I could have put a thumbtack right on your seat, and you could have sat on it.
All right.
Look, today's show is an NFL draft show, and it is not an NFL draft show. And what I mean about that is this is not we're a fantasy football podcast, so this is about the fantasy football perspective on this draft. We're not sitting here talking about defensive players. We're going to be giving you perspective on the first round and team needs and players that may be impacted by draft picks. So, you know, if the Giants, for instance, were to pick a running back, you know, Paul Perkins is going to take a hit. Or if Denver were to grab one, we would be talking about the implications for C.J. Anderson and so forth. And I think there are a lot of those situations present in this first round. So we're going to get into that. We will also drop some bold predictions, which has become a tradition.
Some hot
takes.
We're upping the ante this year.
Well, yeah, that we have like the real crazy bold predictions to start the show in the quick question, but then we have we're going to pick the destination for the big 9 offensive players later in the show, and the loser is going to have their lunch next week chosen by the winner, and we will I can promise you from doing this in the past. It's not pleasant.
We don't treat kindly to our friends are decimated by our lunch bets.
And it's 50-50 chance that it will always be a Beets-related meal. Like you will be eating Beets. So I don't want to lose this. We have all our predictions coming up later. You know, the real story here, too, is Tuesday. Next week, you've got to tune in on Tuesday because we will have all of the post-draft analysis, which just will spill forth.
The fallout.
Oh, the fallout. That's a good way to put it.
Like every NFL draft show that you're going to listen to that's recorded around the draft, we will sound really dumb tomorrow. You know, every
Speak for
draft.
yourself.
Well, that's true. I mean,
I plan on being 100% accurate.
Last year, you sounded dumb before the show when you were like, I think Dallas is going to take Zeke.
It's true.
And because that would have been ridiculous.
Yeah.
But then you sound smart. But
was.
usually you sound dumb afterwards. So Tuesday, that's the real crux. Make sure you listen Tuesday.
Absolutely.
Because fantasy is impacted.
Quick question, guys. I want those monstrous, bold predictions. One bold prediction from each of us right now, right here. And this is the kind of prediction that is so bold that if you get it right, you'll save the audio forever and just constantly tell people about it. So for me, I've got mine, but
all right, you go ahead.
I will go because even though mine might not be, so bold it'll melt your face, I actually believe it. It's a bold prediction that I think has a 50-50 shot of happening, and that is Leonard Fournette to the San Francisco 49ers. Look, their team is not wrought with talent. you say, oh well, there's great defenders on the board there. They have holes there.
There's a lot of good players on the board
holes
too.
everywhere, and if you are going to compete with the Arizona Cardinals and with the Seattle Seahawks, I mean, you look, the Rams aren't a good team, but they give the Seahawks fits because they're a running team. They slow that clock down, and I think that in this division, Kyle Shanahan coming in, preparing for next year's Kirk Cousins, go and get Leonard Fournette, give yourself an identity, and so
sure.
I think it's a legitimate option.
That would be Fournette at 2.
Yes.
So I'm going to say my bold prediction is that Christian McCaffrey will go in the top 8 picks. Okay?
Within, before the Panthers or including
the Panthers.
Okay, all right.
So Christian McCaffrey in the top 8. Stock has been rising. The film is mesmerizing. I'm growing. My love of Christian McCaffrey has grown. That's my bold prediction. Christian McCaffrey in the top 8.
I actually don't hate that because
a lot of mocks have him going there.
Yeah, that would not surprise me at all. I'll go with my bold prediction. Even in this vomitous class of quarterbacks where they are not receiving much hype as far as
being good,
the normal quarterback hype, where last year, I mean, even you had teams draft it or trade everything. They traded everything to move up to 1 and 2 so they could draft them. Despite that, 5 quarterbacks will be drafted in the first round.
So Davis Webb will go at the back end of the first round.
Yes, everyone's going in the first round, despite all the smoke screens and everything that's being thrown on these quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's the hilarious part of today. I've already heard Trubisky 1. I've already heard Watson 4 to Jacksonville. Look, you are trying to trade players right now. You are throwing up smoke screens. You are throwing up misdirection. You are testing the waters to see what kind of phone calls you receive. And that's a bold prediction. Everybody wants a quarterback. And I've made this joke before. We're Arizona Cardinal fans. And I said if we end up taking a quarterback at 13, which is possible, very possible, I'm going to find a way to talk myself into the fact that guy is the best of the class and a future franchise quarterback.
Believe.
And that's clearly what, these GMs will believe about their player too.
I feel like being on an NFL scale, like being a GM or a head coach at this time would be so incredibly fun. The deception. I mean, you're paid to lie.
Yeah.
You are paid to trick people like a professional con artist. I think that would just be so much fun to screw with people. Like, I mean, the 49ers and the Browns, I think, are doing a spectacular job of that. They're like, what? We still don't know. And then you get reports. Oh, we've known for 4 weeks, so we're taking it number 1. Oh, it might be Trubisky now. It's fantastic, and that would be just a spectacular job.
Yeah, it would. All right. It would also not be spectacular if you missed on that one franchise quarterback.
Oh, no.
Fear drives so much of that, too, where you're like, oh, gosh, what if I don't take the superstar?
When you guys saw that list, I believe it was someone from NFL.com. They tweeted it out. It was the first 12 picks from just a handful of years ago. It was literally just a list of busts for the top 12. It was unbelievable. So fantasy players out there, when you miss in your first round pick, don't fret, because NFL GMs screw up all the time.
I laughed really hard this morning when I saw somebody say that Davis Webb had Dak-like intangibles.
And that it's breaking news that someone said something about a guy.
One of the scouts somewhere.
Speaking of news, let's talk some breaking fantasy news, recent fantasy news.
News and notes from around the league.
Quick reminder, you can follow us on Twitter at the FF Ballers. Hey, did you hear about this, Mike? The Raiders have acquired running back Marshawn Lynch.
I'm still deceased.
Oh, my goodness. Wow,
Yeah.
I did some work on Twitter yesterday. I'm sure you saw it.
I did. I
How was
enjoyed
my-
it. I was on vacation with the fam,
You could say the news was verified yesterday.
and I woke up and it was a bad day. It was a bad day.
Did you see this contract he's got?
Oh, man, they are paying
What are
him
they
money.
doing?
I'll tell you what they're doing, because,
Just what I said they would do.
if you watched, some of the news if you were watching NFL Network and you saw the video where Marshawn Lynch comes in, he gets that helmet, he's talking with Jack Del Rio and the other coaches there. The look on the coaching staff's face and on Marshawn's face said the whole story, which was they believe that this is a Super Bowl move. They are unbelievably excited to bring him in, and they think it changes everything. I don't necessarily agree with that, but that is what's happening. They're paying him like he is a Hall of Fame running back in his prime almost. And who's to say that when he comes in, even if he's not as great as he was 3 years ago, what does he open up for Derek Carr? What do linebackers do when you now are doing play action with Marshawn Lynch in 3rd and 1? I mean, you're selling out, and you got Amari Cooper over the top.
His relationship with Oakland always made me confident he wouldn't troll them. And he came out yesterday and he said a bunch of things that were hilarious. But he said, I had fun in Seattle, but I'm really from Oakland, though. Like, really, really, really from Oakland, though.
Yeah. And
so for him, this is as close to playing for family as it gets. He wants to represent them. Whether his body allows him to do that or not, TBD. I think we all agree Latavius Murray is not the best player in the league, but he played behind one of the best lines in the league, so there is an opportunity
he
here.
Also played.
Yeah.
That's a key phrase.
Look, Marshawn Lynch historically has played.
Yeah.
So
except for last year. Am I right?
Yeah, well done.
But it's the contract, I mean, this is –
it has a maximum value of $16 million.
It's
$16.5
so ridiculous.
Incentive-laden.
It is so ridiculous. But this is, to me, this is Oakland. This is the team ownership. This is the coaching staff. This is buying goodwill from the city of Oakland because they know that people are pissed.
Yeah, and if nobody shows up.
And not anymore.
Yeah.
Whatever. Who cares? You can leave in 2 years. We get 2 years of our man, Marshawn Lynch.
What a great story that would be if they won. If they won it all there.
I mean, honestly, I love Lynch. I'm rooting for him. And it's also interesting when we're talking about the contract.
I want people to know I'm rooting for Marshawn Lynch. I love him.
And how are you going to rank him now? Where is he as your fantasy running back? He is your fantasy RB.
He'll probably be a 2.
Yeah, for me, I think he's 13, 14. I've cooled on my top 10 look, but I do think he's going to get the rock enough. And when you look at his contract, remember, they were close to not coming to terms over a couple $1 million. So obviously money here mattered to Marshawn Lynch. And
should.
Well, sure. But he has a $2 million bonus if he gets 1,000 yards. So you think that doesn't matter to him, getting the yards, getting the numbers, and that impacts fantasy. So I like him.
Speaking of other
old
Hall of Fame players switching teams, Adrian Peterson, we have not commented on this yet. 2-year deal with the New Orleans Saints. Last year, I believe there were 155 carries or touches given to Tim Hightower. We knew that a running back was going to join the fray there. Mark Ingram has not been historically a 16-game running back. He gets hurt. He gets in the doghouse.
Yeah, he's not well liked.
I think I said briefly, maybe it was on the Foot Clan show, but my opinion is that the reaction will be a little bit of an overreaction on Ingram with the AP in the sense that 155 touches for Hightower and Ingram was still very relevant last year. That being said, Peterson has much more of an impact on the red zone than I think Hightower does. And so it does bring me some concern about those numbers because not only does Drew Brees normally score 3 or 4 goal line type of sneaks, he has the potential to do that. Now you have one of the guys that's always been the best at getting into the end zone from the 1 or 2 yard line. It concerns me.
I'm so baffled. I'm just baffled by this move for the Saints.
It feels redundant, doesn't it?
Well, it's just look what we know about Sean Payton. If you fumble, he hates you. Unless you're Tim Hightower. What we know about Adrian Peterson, he will fumble. He will fumble multiple times. How will Sean Payton handle that? What else do we know? That the Saints have been the number 1 team passing it to their running backs, and we know that Adrian Peterson, can he catch the ball? Yes, because he's a professional football player, but that's not his strength. He's never been completely comfortable doing it. It's just so bizarre to hamstring yourself to an aging Peterson who maybe he has some juice left, maybe he doesn't. But to give him a contract, I'm I am shocked.
And
I'm shocked that
Adrian
they made
Peterson
this move.
is going to be ranked where? Where would you rank him? Based on preliminary information, no camp.
I've updated my rankings for both of these guys, and
Yeah, give me both.
Yeah, so I did move Mark Ingram down a little bit, right? Because this will affect him.
You have to.
But I didn't move him down crazy because one of the things, I think people don't realize is his efficiency. And in this offense, now he's probably going to be used more in that pass-catching role that he showed that he can do. But since he's been a Saint, his per 16 games, so like even if he doesn't play, I'm saying if he were to play 16, his pace is 195 carries a year. He's not even a 200-carry guy, and he's been a top, RB1 the last few years. So I've got Ingram currently as my RB 13, so just outside that top. And I've got Adrian Peterson right now a little bit further down, like RB 30. I think he'll have enough red zone opportunity to be relevant, but he will be the backup, I believe.
Would you rather have Derrick Henry or Adrian Peterson next year?
That's a fair question. I think I would rather have Adrian Peterson because both become more relevant in the case of an injury. But I think without the injury, Adrian Peterson is someone I might be able to rely on as I would be able to start both players. I don't see that with Derrick Henry.
Tevin Coleman or Adrian Peterson?
Coleman. Tevin Coleman.
I think it's Coleman. Do you think that Peterson will be drafted before or after Ingram?
Probably after, but
after.
he will be.
You think Peterson will go? Okay.
But I do think Peterson will, because of his name, be overdrafted.
All right. Mike, you got to be excited about this. The NFL has conditionally reinstated Martavis Bryant.
Oh, I love it.
Wide receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We've talked at length before about the impact Martavis Bryant has statistically on Big Ben Roethlisberger and that offense. It's about a 7-point per game difference. The sample isn't monstrous, but he is a field stretching guy, and Big Ben finds a way to get the ball downfield. If Martavis Bryant is healthy and on the field, which has not been something you can take for granted, how much does this adjust Big Ben for you? Where do you think Martavis could realistically fit into the puzzle?
Martavis, to me, playing the whole season, he's a high-end 2 at the worst. I think he's incredible. I think his talent is.
I feel like that's very bold.
Possibly.
To say a high-end 2 at the worst.
Yeah, possibly.
He's never done that. He's never had a high-end 2 year, has he?
Yeah, well, if you
he's never had a full year.
Yeah, I was going to say if you were to play 16,
well,
his
that
pace
factors into it though.
No,
it
absolutely does. I think that at this, we know that his. I mean, he had some social anxiety. He had some internal problems, and with his reinstatement, I have to assume that he has, done the right thing. He sought out and got some help for it. That because the NFL factors those things into reinstatement. I think he's so freaking good and matches up exactly with that team, with what Big Ben can do.
They desperately needed help.
Yes, they did. They absolutely did. They may still draft somebody, but I mean, you saw it with that those just couple of games when Sammy Coates had an actual functioning hand before he fully lacerated it. That offense was unstoppable.
Yeah, and we have to remember Martavis Bryant is only 25 years old now. When he was going through these issues, these personal, struggles, I feel like I didn't know who I was, as a man until at least my middle 20s.
Right.
And I'm not sure who you are now.
Right? So, and I'm going to be 30.
Does that mean you give Johnny Manziel, 24 years old, benefit of the doubt on that?
Johnny Manziel is going to come into his own about 32.
Josh Gordon, 26 years old.
I will say this with Martavis Bryant. I echo what Mike is saying, and I echo what you're saying, Andy, in the sense that if he plays –
You're a double echo.
Well, if he plays, I think he's great, but you can't necessarily rely on him for 16 games. So on a per-game basis, I love him, but his risk rating is much higher.
Yeah, I'd put him around 25.
With basically with this news, though, came the shocking – dumbfoundingly shocking news out of for the Arizona Cardinals that another reinstatement happened. Darrell Washington.
I didn't even know he was still trying.
No, I didn't either. He's been gone for 3 years. That has no fantasy relevance, but it leads me to question the Josh Gordon. If is this like the week right now where seems like they're trying to get these things done before the draft for the benefit of teams? The draft is tonight. Is Josh Gordon coming back? Is he not?
Oh, I'm tired of even thinking about it.
Sure.
I've got him on my dynasty team, so if he does, then I can be happy.
I think that the fact that Martavis is already back and Josh Gordon was if you followed the Darrell Washington story, the fact that he was reinstated just a couple days ago and Josh Gordon wasn't on that day, that's extremely bad news.
Right.
Okay. All right. Dontrell Inman was signed to a 1-year deal. He'll be back with the Los Angeles Chargers. Aren't we all very excited about that?
The mediocre signing of the week.
All right, we're going to talk some first round draft fantasy implications, and in case you thought we forgot, Mike would never let that happen. So here you go.
Whoop. Draft. Ha! Savior of the universe. Draft! Ha! It's the day.
I don't know what's I don't know if it's that or the play a game drop that I love less. But
the people love it, man.
Yeah, 3 years in a row now. 3 years in a row. Last year, if you don't remember,
the NFL is missing the boat on that one right there.
Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to walk through the first round, and we're going to talk through some team needs and what we expect out of those positions. And then we're going to make our big-time predictions for the big 9 guys that see that we're going to compete against each other on making these predictions, see how many we get right. And hopefully I am not the biggest loser of that group. You hope that I'm not as well. That's good.
If I win and you lose, I know exactly the meal that we will be eating.
What, the very healthy anti-inflammatory beets?
Nope. There will be no beets in your meal.
I know what
crap.
you're getting.
I know what it is.
You're getting straight eggplant, my man.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Draft.
I don't want to be here. Cleveland. You lucky old Browns.
You're on the clock.
Cleveland on the clock. Let's talk about Cleveland. What does Cleveland need?
Everything.
What don't they need?
The one thing they don't need right now is I think their offensive line looks like they're set.
Sure.
I also believe their running backs look ready behind it. The combo of Duke Johnson along with Isaiah Crowell seems set. So on the offensive side of the ball, I also think their wide receivers are okay. This leaves, for fantasy purposes, a quarterback.
Yep. So, I mean, that's why there are still Trubisky rumors for number 1. You've also got
rumors for trading up. They've got more ammo than anyone in the draft.
Sure, they have the number 12 pick from the Eagles. So they're drafting at 1 and 12. They could take a defensive player at 1 and they could go get a quarterback at 12. But if there's one guy that they really like, it could happen at number 1. But what are the odds of that player having a fantasy impact in year 1?
Zero. I mean, the odds of a quarterback doing it at all are low. The odds of a quarterback that is not really a consensus one doing it for the Browns.
You really need those Dak-like intangibles. The most recent last year was probably you need those Russell Wilson intangibles.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Right?
I will say
so
this.
You need a 4th-round quarterback.
Yeah, that's what that means.
I will say this. Cleveland Browns, after me mocking them, they do actually have some of those Dak-like intangibles in their offensive line. Dak going in, if Dak went to a team that had no offensive line, how good a
I finally
quarterback
kind of
would he
understand what you're saying. You were saying yeah, I mean
I'm saying that some of Dak's intangibles aren't his. They're Dallas's.
Yeah,
some of them.
I would agree that.
I mean, generally intangibles are about a single person.
No, I get that. It's just making an association.
Okay. All right. So you're saying that a quarterback coming into Cleveland has the benefits that Dak had with a solid offensive line to protect them as opposed to coming in and being under fire to the degree that,
Correct.
Yeah, other
He's saying
quarterbacks.
that his favorite quarterback, Johnny Manziel, would have succeeded in Dallas.
Yes. All right. We're moving on. San Francisco has the number 2 pick in the draft. San Francisco has a number of needs as well. This is often the case with the top of the draft. You're looking at Jason talked about the running back position, we've heard a lot of rumors about Carlos Hyde, and he would be the player most impacted by a draft pick, at that position, obviously. Hyde hasn't stayed healthy. Hyde has always been much like, many players. When he's on the field, his numbers look really good, and if you project them out over 16 games, they look really good, and he hasn't been able to do that. He's also not part of the new Shanahan regime, and he may want to make a mark there. What else do they need? Do you feel like there's the potential for the 49ers to look elsewhere on the offensive side in this draft? I mean, quarterback.
They need everything, unless their long-term plan is to, like Jason thinks, to steal Cousins away from Washington. I mean, they could go anywhere. What's unfortunate for them, or maybe it's fortunate, I view it as unfortunate, that they're number 2, and the guys that they need, the offensive players that they need, are not guys that
are worthy of that pick.
They feel like you should be taking them at number 2. Right. Now, I mean, take your guy, take the number 1 guy on your board that you want, but it's an unfortunate thing if they can't move down.
I will say this: if they do not draft a quarterback, or if they draft a later quarterback, and this person's going to sit behind Brian Hoyer, I think that means a lot more to Pierre Garçon than we think. I think if you have a rookie that you're going to bring in and you actually want to start from the beginning, that's not going to be good.
News, no.
It's not going to be good news for Pierre Garçon and for the wide receivers there. But if Brian Hoyer stays behind center, we've seen him give fantasy relevance to DeAndre Hopkins and to other players. Historically, he has the ability to put up a 300-yard game with consistency. So do you agree with that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. What's interesting, I mean, I haven't, of all the news that you're trying to filter through, I haven't heard a ton of San Francisco talking about a quarterback.
Yeah, there's been there's certainly been some chatter, but since they are going to get Kirk Cousins next year, they don't need it. I think if they do draft a quarterback, they're hurting themselves to get a mediocre quarterback when they could get a good one next year. The one thing I will throw out,
these things aren't guaranteed.
I know they're not guaranteed. I know that. This is more of a fun show today. However, because it's fun, I'm just throwing this one out there, a good asset for them to have, because keep in mind, they have a lot of picks in this draft. Okay, they've got the second pick in each round, but then they've got 2 4ths, 2 5ths, and 2 6ths. So they can either use that capital.
Wow.
They can use that capital for either trading up, or they can use that capital just to take some risks. And I think Evan Ingram for fantasy makes a lot of sense here as a Jordan Reed pre-Cousins.
Oh man!
You see the
Shanahan
connection?
with Ingram.
There you go.
Woo-wee.
If Kirk Cousins runs that on the field week 1 and he accidentally has a 49er helmet on for the Redskins, then I will be amazed. Chicago drafts at number 3. They're a team that I don't think anybody's really looking at to take an offensive player. Am I right?
Certainly not in the first round, but they have offensive needs. So I mean,
but they need offensive linemen. They need cornerbacks.
I can't imagine them. I think they're set with Jordan Howard. I don't think they're going to disrupt that situation this year. The biggest disruptor could possibly be if they took a quarterback right up at the top.
And they did work out. I believe they worked out Mitch Trubisky. He was. They were one of the 5 teams that worked him out.
With the Glennon contract, it's very team friendly. So it's not impossible for them to do it, because it basically is.
It's a 1-year.
It's factored that they can cut him after this year and move on.
When you read really good Bears beat reporters, it's really weird to me. Some of them who are trustworthy say that they cannot fathom leaving the second round without a quarterback, like if they don't have one there. And then the others are like, no, they're not going to take a quarterback. John Fox wants to save his job by being good this year. So the quarterback is the real question to me for Chicago.
They lost Alshon Jeffrey. Do they need help at wide receiver?
Currently, they've got a hodgepodge of could-be's. They've got your Cameron Meredith, who could be great. I know we have an article, What's on Tape for Cam Meredith, by Kyle Borgognoni, and that he looks good.
That person can't be real.
You've also got Kendall Wright, a former first-round pick who has not found great success, but could. A bunch of question marks.
You have, and also
Kevin White.
Yeah, I'll say Kevin White is their biggest question mark. Still haven't seen him play for.
I don't think they need to add another rookie question mark, is my point.
Let's talk about a team at number 4, Jacksonville, that has really strengthened their defense. Their defense looks great on paper. which puts them squarely in the fantasy category of a disruptor, right? I mean, you're going to come in, a lot of rumors. Where I have Fournette going is Jacksonville. They have need at tight end. They have the ability, I think, with Blake Bortles this year, where we don't know if they'll take another quarterback or not. You know, you hear the rumors about Deshaun Watson and things like that. But who are the players that take the biggest hit if they go offense in the draft?
Nobody.
Clearly, it's going to be running back if they were to.
But I don't think they had. I mean, Yeldon.
Yeah, how are you going to project Yeldon and Ivory anyway?
It disrupts Ivory,
right.
Really, if they take Fournette, if they take a power back. I mean, I think it might help Yeldon get him into just the pass specialty role on that team. We saw that he had some chops, some passing game chops, and we also have seen that I don't think he can be a three-down guy, so move him to that and get Fournette here to take over the banger role, because Chris Ivory I think Chris Ivory might be done.
And with Julius Thomas leaving the team, I think that another need that could help, if you get if you were to invest high in, say, O.J. Howard or even David Njoku, that could possibly aid to Blake Bortles in a number of ways. One, the line help, and two, an extra outlet. Julius Thomas was surprisingly efficient last year and had touchdowns from Blake Bortles when he was on the field. So a tight end is in play for sure.
Do you know the contract situation for Ivory off the top of your head?
I can pull it up pretty quick.
Yeah, you just wonder, if there are possibly better situations for Fournette to land in the sense that if Ivory's under contract, Yeldon's under contract, does Fournette get you spend the 4 pick, you're going to get a workload.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident, and you're looking it up, but Ivory is guaranteed this year, but next year they can get out of Ivory.
They can't. He'll be on the team this year. He would be a $7 million dead cap situation.
Gotcha.
I mean, you can post June and kind of spread it out, but they have the potential out is solid after this year.
All right, the Tennessee Titans have the 5th pick in the draft via the Los Angeles Rams. Via Jared Goff. I
mean, that's unbelievable. That you can trade. They got a haul last year, and now they end up with a top 5 pick.
So what does Tennessee need? What are we expecting from Tennessee? We talked about their wide receiver situation all offseason. Free agency didn't really lend itself to a big name landing there.
They remind me exactly the same needs to me of the Arizona Cardinals. They need a wide receiver for the future, a number 1 guy for Marcus Mariota, and they need help in the secondary, both at the safety and quarterback position.
Oh, man,
I mean, their defense is not that bad up front, but the secondary is, as bad as it gets. So I expect Tennessee wants to trade down. They certainly want to help add multiple pieces to that back end. But the number 1 thing we're looking for fantasy from Tennessee is where do they take that wide receiver? Because that affects – if they go and they get, Chris Godwin in the, late 2nd or 3rd round, then I'm not too worried about Rashard Matthews. I think he is the starter, and Chris Godwin's going to have to prove it. But if they were to
invest high in a wide receiver.
Let's say they end up at the 12, right? Cleveland trades up to the 5 or something, and they grab – at 12, you're
Davis.
Mike Williams or Corey Davis, then he comes in and I think would, be that day 1 starter.
Yeah, and Marcus Mariota, we've talked about him in our quarterback preview show, which you can go back and listen to. He had a very good year, and he had a very impressive stretch of games where if you gave him more weapons, if you gave him the opportunity, very efficient in the red zone, give him a big body. I agree with Jason. I think that if you bring in a Corey Davis or Mike Williams to that roster, it severely impacts Rashard Matthews.
Yeah, it could. It could. But I'm not worried about it.
You just want Rashard Matthews.
I want him to be good. And I don't know. I mean, with Matthews and Tajay Sharp, I can't see them investing in a wide receiver at 5.
Yeah, they could very well go cornerback there.
I completely agree with you. I think if they go with a 1st-round wide receiver, it's going to be because they trade back.
Jets, Jets.
All right, I've got the Jets nailed. Okay, if you want to know the Jets and what they're going to do, what position takes the longest to make an impact for an NFL team?
That's what they're going to take.
No, yeah, because they are trying their darndest to suck this year. And so if they can grab a really good player who's going to take a couple years to develop, that's just a home run. So, to me, they need a tight end. Tight ends are not usually good as a rookie. Perfect. That just the stars align.
Fits the mold.
I thought you were going to go with they're going to miss their pick because the clock is going to run out.
Oh, man. Who was
that? Might be ideal for their.
Was that the Vikings?
Yeah, that was the Vikings a couple
man.
years ago.
What happens?
2
They
years
just
in a
jump
row.
back in as soon as they can make their pick.
Yes. And I think they missed like 3 picks they couldn't get their pick in for like 3 picks. Oh, that was
a disaster.
I would. It's possible a quarterback lands there. Yeah, in New York, they obviously need one for the future. So
I might have one going there.
I will say
you might.
If they don't trade, if they don't trade out, obviously Todd Bowles as the head coach, they clearly need to replace Revis. You can't call it Island anymore. Revis Nation. Everyone is invited. Open borders.
What would make me just so very happy for this draft is if the Jets just take another second-round quarterback.
Oh,
that would just.
It would be.
Is there any more wasted pick than those second-round quarterbacks? I'll say this. I mean,
the ones that they take, yes.
When we talk about these first picks, and we're going to talk about Los Angeles now, the Chargers, that is. You don't have a lot. Like, the Chargers are the first situation that I feel like, an offensive player can walk into and succeed with an offense that, you have a veteran quarterback and you have an established offense there. Even in Jacksonville, you had Blake Bortles, who could very well be on the way out after this year. So it gets more exciting, I think, from a fantasy perspective when you look at these teams and these picks where a guy can walk in and make an instantaneous impact.
Here's a hot take pick that I haven't heard anyone say, but I think does make sense completely for this team, because this is the first team that I think they're solid most positions. Their
you
defense,
got Keenan Allen back already.
Their defense is, I think, on paper actually really good. Their offense is certainly good, and so they have the freedom to take a pick. And while I don't know that they want to invest the money of 2 first-round running backs, a Christian McCaffrey replacing the Danny Woodhead in the role that is utilized, that they know how to use that position. I think he would be excellent for that team, and I think he would be excellent for fantasy. I mean, Danny Woodhead was clearly a PPR machine there, so I don't anticipate that, but that would be such a great landing spot.
They shocked, at least myself, I feel like they shocked a number of people last year when they went Bosa, where they just had this screaming need for offensive tackle, and they bypassed everyone, and they took Bosa. They took their best player available. To me, the Chargers—
That would be devastating to Melvin Gordon.
Oh, yes, for sure.
And I've never even heard that association, so that my mind is spinning with oh, my
sadness?
goodness. I mean, it's sadness because McCaffrey doesn't walk into a 3-down role like you would in Philadelphia or someplace else, and Carolina maybe. And Melvin Gordon would be drastically impacted. He was a volume player last year, and so I would cry tears, tears.
So maybe they'll grab an O-lineman and swing the pendulum the exact other direction.
That's true.
The Chargers, to me, are this reminds me a lot of Dallas last year, which is funny enough that you're talking about an early running back that they shouldn't take. But just the fact that they're actually, I think, a good team.
Yeah, they're playoff caliber.
If you remember what happened last year to the Chargers, it was just giving away games late.
And injury
central. So they can easily bounce back. So if you get
how long was Bosa out too? I mean, Bosa missed the first
couple games, and then he came in. It was just a nightmare.
All right, let's talk Carolina. Carolina, one of the other rumored homes for Leonard Fournette. I have a running back going to Carolina.
We have the same guy going.
No way.
Everyone has a running back. I feel like everyone has a running back to Carolina. I am on my own island, but I just feel like it's going to be defense. The Carolina, I mean, they use their first-round picks on D, so maybe they're going to change it up this year, but I would be surprised. They clearly need a running back, right? They've got 30-year-old plus Jonathan Stewart and
newly re-signed Jonathan Stewart.
and
nothing. So they will add a running back in this draft. Which guy do you guys have going there? Spoiler.
We both have Christian McCaffrey going there. Which, I mean,
that's
why I have him as a top 8 pick is my bold prediction.
Yeah, I would personally.
That's why I said
That's why Mike agreed with me. My goodness.
Well, maybe we'll talk about that in depth on Tuesday if it happens.
Gosh dang it. I thought that was going to be one of my differentiating picks there for the food situation.
Negative.
All right. Dang it. All right. Cincinnati, number 9 in the draft. Cincinnati, are we considering a position pick here like a running back? I mean, would that be the one offensive position they may take early? I don't see them at pick number 9 going with a wide receiver.
I don't see him going wide
they don't
receiver
need a quarterback.
or running back here.
They don't need a tight end.
They could use some offensive line help, and the way that the top end of this draft is worked out, I could see someone falling to them there. Otherwise, they like San Diego. I don't think they're a team of desperation anywhere. So it's really going to matter what happens ahead of them. Maybe they can. Trade
I'd love
back.
to see them solidify the O-line just for the confidence levels for guys like AJ Green and Dalton, and for Gio Bernard coming back, and I'm not even going to say Jeremy Hill's name because I'm never excited about Jeremy Hill. But
they are heavily linked. I will say more than any other team of digging into the bushes of a team linked to.
You can dig through them now. You can do anything with the bushes.
Wait, who are you going to say?
They're highly versatile.
Linked to who?
Mixon.
Oh, okay, yeah, certainly.
That's a perfect fit.
And he's so obviously he's not going to be taken here. Maybe not so obviously, but it's an obvious to me they would not take him there. But he'll be the
but they could take him at 41. Yeah, take him at 41. That's a perfect match because that they've always been willing to take a chance on a guy with a tattered past.
Yeah, and I would say this is the time, and we're going down through those first 32 picks, but this is where you do need to stop looking at just the first round and realize team needs through the whole weekend. I think Jeremy Hill does stand the most to lose here because if they do bring in a back, I think it would be more his replacement than Gio's.
Yeah, Gio's he has a role carved out there.
Well, if Mixon goes there, they're
that
all
would
on
hurt both of them.
All
certainly.
on notice.
All on notice. All right, Buffalo, New Orleans, and Cleveland again are 10, 11, 12. New Orleans is almost certainly at this point, after signing Adrian Peterson, 99.9% defense.
Yeah,
I can't imagine this
agree.
pick being anything but defense. Do you guys disagree?
No, the first round, I mean, they traded Cook to say, our offense is fine. We've got Drew Brees. We want to win games. Let's get a defense. So they will be going defense there. However, as the draft continues, I think they need a replacement for Cook. I mean, they have some on the roster, but they will add wide receiver depth. And whenever a wide receiver goes to a situation with a Hall of Fame quarterback, I like those wide receivers more. I mean, it's just
they would have to beat out, Snead and Ginn.
Yeah, I mean they would have to beat out Snead and Ginn, correct?
Yeah,
and tight end is not out of the realm of possibility here either.
I thought about that, but I don't think they'd ever spend this pick on it.
No, certainly not. But if Njoku fell later, or Evan Ingram or someone like that, they know how to use it.
Buffalo picks right before them. Buffalo has needs at all the skill positions. Wide receiver, obviously. They offloaded Robert Woods and Marquise Goodwin, and they pretty much have nobody.
They got Sammy Watkins, who's going to maybe be on the field.
This could be a landing spot for O.J. Howard to me. This could be a landing spot for Deshaun Watson or a quarterback in general.
Literally every single skill position they need. They won't use the first-round pick on a running back, but if they use it on a quarterback, if they use it on a wide receiver, if they use it on a tight end, all of those, if they could go and get several more first-round picks, that would really help them out.
I have no doubt that Buffalo will take a running back in the first 5 rounds as well. I cannot imagine with the injury history of LaShawn McCoy and how banged up he's been in the past couple of years at times that they would want to lean on Jonathan Williams in his entirety. So whether it's a veteran through free agency, whether it's LeGarrette Blount lands somewhere eventually, which I thought would be so funny.
No.
But that's a possibility. And then
Don't put that evil on
you
me.
have Cleveland again at number 12. We've talked kind of about their situation and their needs, so I think we can move on now and talk Arizona at number 13.
I mentioned they're very similar to the Titans. They need help in the secondary, I think, and they need a wide receiver. A lot of the things coming out of Arizona is that they would like to use the year that is clearly the last year for Carson Palmer and Larry Fitzgerald. There's so much talk about how the Cardinals have the people to help bring along the next generation. And I don't think that's been talked about a lot with quarterback, right? You bring in a quarterback to sit behind Carson Palmer to learn, whether that's a Mahomes or a Kaiser or any of them. But not a lot of attention has been paid, I think, to the fact that a wide receiver could come in and spend a year learning from Larry Fitzgerald and be, on how to take care, how to live the NFL life. So to me, this is a team.
Corey Davis.
Yeah, Corey Davis, it would be great. Mike Williams would be great. I think
they lost Michael Floyd. John Brown had issues last year. This might be the best early landing spot for any wide receiver to go and make an immediate impact.
I agree.
I completely agree.
And anybody, John Ross, even, I know we've already got a bunch of them, but Bruce Arians loves fast wide receivers.
All right, we've got a number of picks to get through here, and we've got to make our predictions. So, Mike, what does Philadelphia do with pick number 14?
With pick number 14, man, they need the running back situation here of the first round is so interesting to me because Zeke ruined everything or helped everything. It depends on your matter perspective. And they really need a running back. I feel like Doug Peterson wants to have that guy. I mean, coming from the system of having Jamal Charles and Ryan Matthews gets hurt. It didn't work out, and Wendell Smallwood is not the guy. I mean, he's a backup.
Yeah, and Darren Sproles is not.
I mean, you need to take
mainline
right.
back.
You need to take some pressure off of Carson Wentz, but I don't think that they'll go a skill position player here. So
what's your favorite offensive fit for Philadelphia at 14?
If
favorite fit, best situation for fantasy. Philadelphia at 14 drafts who?
I have McCaffrey going at 8, but if McCaffrey fell to the Eagles,
that would be their best situation.
Yes, that would be incredible.
Jason,
and I think on the heels of that with the Colts, I have McCaffrey falling.
Everyone gets McCaffrey.
I've got him falling to that 14-15 range, and I went back and forth whether or not the Eagles would take him, but I think they're in a similar situation with an old Frank Gore where they could use someone to take a little bit of pressure off of Andrew Luck, and so you have a new GM in there. So we don't have a track record to look back from the past and say, okay, this is what they like to do. Obviously, he's come in. He's helped their defense tremendously. Does that mean they use offense? They could use offensive line here.
I know.
I was going to say they need to draft offensive line here. I think
which means
running
they
back
will draft Mike Williams.
Running back would be ridiculous. Wide receiver would be ridiculous to me.
Oh, I don't think running back would be ridiculous.
I don't think you can use your first-round pick on a running back here. I know it's a great home for one if they go there. I just personally think you invested in Trent Richardson in the trade.
Sure.
It didn't work out. You have Philip Dorsett. That didn't work out. Andrew Luck was on his butt all year last year. You got to protect him.
I completely,
That's just my hope.
Completely agree with that. They might not do it in the first, but in the early rounds, first
no
three
doubt.
rounds, I think they'll take a running back.
I agree with you. You could have Deontay Foreman land there. Baltimore at 16, a great home for a wide receiver. If I had to pick, that's where I have Corey Davis going. We'll get to those predictions momentarily. What else for Baltimore is worth discussing? I think wide receiver is the off-the-page obvious need for Baltimore. Losing Steve Smith, Mike Wallace is not long for the NFL. He's not a long-term fix at that position. They lost Kamar Aiken. They got to draft a wide receiver.
Perfect landing spot for a wide receiver. Perfect. And I would just throw out maybe a pass-catching tight end as well, although it's hard to imagine. They've got Max Williams. They've got Dennis Pitta. No, I know, but they use it, and this is an especially talented class.
Mike, what do you think about Washington? What does Washington do to disrupt the fantasy universe at 17?
This is what I'll say about Washington. Just don't draft a running back. Don't do it.
They're not taking one in the first, but they'll grab one through the draft.
Did you guys catch all the
how much they hate Matt Jones?
the slander of Matt Jones?
Oh, my gosh. He literally had nothing good to say about Matt Jones and said everything good about Rob Kelly. It's amazing how quick stuff like that can change. But he was a former regime guy.
This would be my, if you want hot, spicy takes, this would be my surprise first-round team to take a quarterback.
Oh, wouldn't that just be – I mean, I can just see them – I feel like Dan Snyder would take off the leather glove and walk up to Kirk Cousins and go, with the 17th pick, the Washington Redskins select Mitch Trubisky, and then just smack him across the face and then walk away. I don't know why Dan Snyder talks like that, but I figure he does.
Well, I mean, anyone who slaps people in the face with gloves,
Yeah,
talks
it's
in that voice.
They have a glaring
Yeah.
They have, to me, a glaring quarterback need in 2018.
Yeah, I did it.
He just is. Oh man, he would be so mean.
You said it before I could say it, Jay. So I'm with you. That could happen. It shouldn't. They should pay Kirk Cousins. But Tennessee again at number 18. We've talked about their needs at length. I think if they go, I think one of their top 2 picks is going to be an offensive piece. So whether that's the 5th pick or 18, I think we'll see an offensive piece land in Tennessee.
Dan Snyder needs a big mustache.
We talked about Dan Snyder last year on this exact show, Mike, me and you, and it was why I picked Zeke to Dallas last year. As I said, my argument to you was Dan Snyder returned to his ways, Jerry Jones will return to his, and he will take him. So these guys cannot.
Who's the bad guy in Dudley Do Right? I'm trying to think. Snidely Whiplash. He needs a Snidely Whiplash mustache.
Who's the guy from Frozen? That's
Wesselton.
Wesselton.
That's the voice.
Yeah.
The guy from Wesselton.
Take that, Kirk. All right, Tampa Bay at 19. They're my surprise pick for a running back in the first round.
Sure. I
Dun,
mean,
dun, dun.
They
They also,
cut Doug
you know.
Martin without having any cap ramifications.
They've shown an interest in, giving Jameis Winston the tools he needs.
They've also shown an interest in giving Jameis Winston players from his former team. It didn't work out well with their kicker.
Oh, so you mean me picking Mr. Dalvin Cook?
Yes, I think he'll fall out of the first round, but this would be a good spot if he were to go to a first-round team.
All right, Denver at 20. Another popular pick for Christian McCaffrey. Seems doubtful that he'll get there at this point.
No, they have to get offensive line. Denver needs offensive line help very badly. I think this is a spot in the draft where they will have their board. I expect them to go offensive line early. I do think they will grab a running back in this draft, and I don't think they'll go quarterback. I think they're fine with their 2 guys.
All right, let's talk about Detroit. Last year, my bold prediction, by the way, was Henry to Detroit.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
So I missed that one. What does Detroit do at 21? What do you think the best fit for them might be?
Well, I mean, it's a bit of a spoiler, but I have them moving on from their man.
Yeah,
from Jason.
I can see it happening.
Eric Ebron, I have them grabbing a replacement for him.
I've seen that, but isn't it hard? Like, okay, that's admitting that we got it wrong with our first-round tight end. So to change it up, we're going to replace him with a first-round tight end.
But it's a later first-round tight end.
Detroit, they're a team that has a lot of other needs. They've obviously solidified their offensive line a little bit. I could see them grabbing a wide receiver, if not in the first round, early in the draft. I think they need to put another piece there. Marvin Jones would disappear at times, and Golden Tate's not a frontline Calvin-esque type of guy. No one really is Calvin Johnson. But I think, you got to put Matthew Stafford into position to have those weapons. They're a team that I almost picked as a destination for a Mike Williams or Corey Davis. Miami, a playoff team last year.
Playoffs?
Number 22. What does Miami do?
They exhale.
They draft a defensive player, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think that they're going to look to solidify their team with defense on the offensive side of the ball, which is what we care about in fantasy. I think they're looking for continuity, so the pieces they're going to add are going to be behind the scenes. I don't think their offense changes much in this draft.
Well, I mean, if you look at their offense, it's all full. Can't sit here.
Yeah, seat taken.
Seat taken.
The New York Giants
are
much more interesting from an offensive perspective.
Tight end, man.
Tight end is what I want. I want Njoku falling to them there, and I want them to take him.
And I want it now.
I mean, if you look back at their last several years, their third target is either their third or fourth, but it's usually like a couple years ago, Larry Donnell was their third most targeted option. Will Tye has been their fourth most targeted option in the last few years. They use it in the red zone. And if they had a capable tight end as opposed to a Larry Donnell or a Will Tye, then there's production to be had there.
Don't talk bad about my man.
Well,
the Tie Fighter.
Will Tye, the Giants guy.
Pew pew.
When my offseason started in the Dynasty League, I had Adrian Peterson and Paul Perkins as my 2 running backs, and I was internally freaking out. And I traded both. I was able to move both. before the AP to New Orleans situation came about. And look, first 3 rounds, they got to get another piece in the backfield to me. I know Shane Vereen's back and they like Paul Perkins, but I just can't imagine him carrying the load. Do you guys think that they'll wait? Are they more of a candidate for a 5th or 6th round?
Yeah, I think that they will wait and grab a late round running back.
PSA, by the way. Did you guys know that there's no 8th round?
Yes, I should have. I mean,
yeah.
we
I have a greatlier knowledge of the draft than you think I do.
I should have just given you so much, garbage, so much flack for that in the moment, because usually I'm the one getting the.
What did I say? 6th, 7th, or 8th? They're adding an 8th round, whether they like it or not. I will not be made a fool.
8th round picks are a thing. In 1993.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to.
I'm calling the Giants to take LeGarrette Blount off of the free agency. So
that's
I'm going to have them pass it up on running back.
Get some O-line or something. All right, the Raiders. The Raiders this offseason have already –
They really need a running back.
They already have a quarterback. They do not need a running back. They already signed, Jared Cook, right?
Yeah.
Their offensive pieces are kind of in place. You wonder if this is a team that I just can't foresee them using –
They need defense, and they're going to focus on defense in the draft.
Yeah. I agree.
Not a team that's going to be disrupted. The Houston Texans clearly.
This could be Pat Mahomes' home right here.
I mean, they need
Pat's Mahomes.
They need a quarterback super bad. I mean, I will say this: my least favorite quarterback of the major 4, which is
Trubisky, Watson, Mahomes, Kaiser.
Yes.
Your least favorite is?
My least favorite is Clemson Watson. I think he makes a lot of sense here. Because, I know that he did struggle with turnovers, but because he can run the ball and manage a good team and, not be the guy that you need to rely on. Like Mahomes is more the guy that's like you're going to build an offense around him versus plugging him into, a working team.
Makes sense.
Isn't Houston the best potential destination for a rookie quarterback to make, a Dak like impact?
I mean, it's possible. You have weapons.
You've got a good running game. You've got a good passing.
Great defense. You don't have to do too much.
Good wide receivers.
Yeah. Definitely a possibility. Any other thoughts on Houston on the offensive side?
Not really.
And obviously, by the way, when we review this, we are well aware that 32 teams are not taking offensive players.
Yeah.
We're just giving you kind of our ideal fits here. Seattle at 26 on the board next. Seattle, in my opinion, I believe I erased it, but I had them as a potential home for a wide receiver.
Really?
I did.
Really?
Yeah, I think if you've seen the transition over the last couple of years of putting Russell Wilson in position to throw the ball and succeed, and I don't think Paul Richardson is a breakout candidate this year, and I don't know. I could see them investing at that position. I mean, they were really disappointed that they lost Golden Tate. They've come out and said that, how much they kind of regret not keeping him. I don't know. It's a possible wide receiver home for me in the first couple rounds.
It's O-line or bust for me for Seattle.
Well, it was bust last year. So excellent point.
They took a guy.
Their first round draft picks have not been the best, but the rest of the draft they've been great. To me, their offense is already established. They brought in Eddie Lacy, so they're not looking running back. I agree. Offensive line is the biggest need, the biggest help. They're good at tight end, maybe wide receiver later in the draft. They probably focus on defense. Kansas City.
Yeah, I mean, you're not really looking anywhere but, probably not going to draft an offensive position. I mean, running back would be the only one that is a possibility if one of the big guys dropped to there.
Yeah, not in the first, but I would say at this draft, they will probably draft a quarterback and they will draft a running back. The question to me is, will that running back be a piece that is a 5th, 6th, 7th rounder that's going to go, fight with Sharkhandrick West for that backup role? Or is this guy going to be a 1st, 2nd, 3rd rounder that's going to say, hey, Spencer Ware, go back to being what you were, which is a really, really good backup. And we've got, the piece to be used by Andy Reid. And I think that it will be that. I think they will take a 1st, 2nd, or 3rd round running back.
We are mere moments away from our Big 9 predictions. You have Dallas on the board at 28, and if I were Dallas, I would spend every pick in this draft on defense.
Yes.
What do you think, Brooks?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so
They
The
better.
Dallas fan agrees.
you
I
have
will be
Green
upset if
Green
not.
Bay at 29. I doubt that we see a running back drafted here. They seem to me, that we talked about Ty Montgomery a lot. Since the sense that I get from that team is that they're pretty okay working with what they have, certainly to the point of not necessarily drafting a first-round running back.
I know they just signed a guard, but he's not, he's not the best. I think they could use some
Yeah, and they need a corner too.
guard
so.
help.
Pittsburgh and Atlanta round out our first round. New Orleans has a 32nd pick. We've talked about their needs. We think defense is the likelihood there. Martavis Bryant reinstated. The Steelers were a wide receiver home, potentially, for me. They're also a tight end home for me because of the fact that, look, they're not counting on Ladarius Green being back. Tight end has been much like the Giants.
Yeah.
They've been a place where, look, Heath Miller was a staple there for years and a well-used weapon for Big Ben.
In this draft, I think the Giants and the Steelers are the later round tight end homes that would be great. I would love to see a tight end go to either of these spots. Pittsburgh a lot of times uses that late first-round pick on an excellent defensive player that should have been picked much higher and falls. That's my expectation.
Yeah. And Atlanta, they're all defense to me. They, their defense reminded me so much last year of the Super Bowl Cardinal year, where they could make big plays, but they weren't an overall great defense personnel-wise. Their offense is loaded. I can't see them spending an offensive pick in the first round. So let's get to our predictions, guys. This is, man, I better not lose this. That's all I can say. The epic lunch bet. Let's start at the quarterback position. Mitch Trubisky, give me your prediction.
I've got him going to the Browns, I think, in a trade-up.
I've got him going to the 49ers.
At 2?
At 2.
I've got him going to the Jets at number 6. I think the Browns spend their first on someone else, and they think that he will fall, or even they're just blowing the smoke, wanting someone else to take him.
There you go.
Deshaun Watson is the other quarterback we'll make a prediction on. I've got him going to Buffalo.
I'm going to stick with the Texans. I think that he's a good fit there, and I think he'll fall.
And I have him as the guy that the Browns scoop up with their second pick there.
Okay. At what is that, 12?
12, yes.
All right, let's talk running backs, guys. Predictions. Leonard Fournette, we all have him going to Jacksonville.
Yeah,
Is this like hedging here? We don't want to be stuck not going chalk with him.
This is for me. It's Tom Coughlin. He's old man. He's get off my lawn. He is. I want the NFL to be like it was in the 1980s.
I love Tom Coughlin.
I do too.
I know
and
you
he
do,
is
but
calling the shots.
still,
And he loves Werther's original candy.
And he loves. Yeah, he loves.
I don't think he gets past the Jaguars, but again, I think there's a chance, as crazy as it is, that he's not there.
Dalvin Cook. I have him landing in an interesting spot with his fellow alma mater mate.
Yeah.
I have him going to the Buccaneers.
It's not bad. I have him being the backup plan for the Philadelphia Eagles at running back.
Yeah, and as I said, first, second, third, I think Kansas City could use his talents with Andy Reid very well. I don't expect him to go in the first, but I've got Kansas City.
Do you think if he goes to the Chiefs, he's a timeshare guy to me? I think that's him and Spencer Ware both would have value then.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you saw,
they love Spencer Ware.
Jamal Charles was not a 300 carry. That wasn't his usual yearly thing that he did. He just was super effective and efficient and able to get the ball in space. I think they could use Cook that way.
You know how they feel about wide receivers in Kansas City. They just kind of blur their eyes and try to pretend they don't exist.
Please don't draft a wide receiver.
Christian McCaffrey out of Stanford. Where do you have him going, Jason?
I struggled between the Eagles and the Colts. I think he will get to the Colts. I don't think he'll get past.
Mike and I went bold. We took Carolina. Both of us took the Panthers with the 8th pick, taking Christian McCaffrey. We'll see.
Yeah, it would be very interesting because that'd be a change of pace for Carolina. He's not Jonathan Stewart. He's not a smash mouth guy. I mean, he's a
quicks guy.
He can run it out, but maybe they'll change the offense, pass it to the running back.
That does not happen.
Well, I mean, he also solves another problem for them at wide receiver. You can play with Jonathan Stewart in the backfield and then have McCaffrey in the slots or something.
Wide receivers, Corey Davis and Mike Williams. We're making predictions on both of them. Corey Davis, Jason, you have him going where?
I've got him going to the Arizona Cardinals, and I hope he does get drafted early because if he slips out of the first round, what I think that says, I'm saying this now, I think that speaks volumes about his current injuries. That's the one piece of information the fantasy community just doesn't know.
Yeah.
The NFL does.
We never got we don't have that information, so we did not get athletic testing for Corey Davis. But I'm with Jason. I think that the Cardinals take him.
I have
really?
Yeah, he does. I have Baltimore. I have Baltimore as the home for Corey Davis. So, Mike Williams, I have him going to Tennessee.
So with the early pick or the later pick?
I have them going to Tennessee.
Really
Yeah,
matter.
the 18 with the 18.
I've got him going to Tennessee at 12.
Oh, because you have the trade down?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
okay.
not bad. I have him going to Buffalo.
Okay. All right. Now at tight ends, we're picking teams for O.J. Howard and David Njoku. So, Jason, take it away.
I'm going to stick with the Jets. I actually think O.J. Howard will fall, so I don't really. Yeah, I mean, taking a tight end this early is rare, but I'm going to go with the Jets just because of the narrative of they're trying to tank this season. And even though O.J. Howard is the most ready tight end, it's still difficult for tight ends to come in and make an impact.
I took the other New York team, the Giants, and the funny thing is Howard probably drops somewhere between the Jets at 6 and the Giants at 23. But I have him falling to the Giants, so I'm going to go with him.
I am going to the Titans.
Yeah.
Well, I like that
great fit.
spot
Got the-
lot.
Yeah.
Delaney Walker, oh, man.
Another block.
I want to.
I'd be very happy.
That's
with that.
great. That's
David
great.
Njoku rounds out our top 9 predictions. I have David Njoku going to the San Francisco 49ers.
I'm going to go New York Giants.
There you go.
And I talked about it. I got him going to the Lions.
All right.
Rawr.
All right. It's out there now. We've made our predictions. Nothing you can do about them. So, Mike, I don't know if I want Mike or Jason to lose more, but I don't really care. I hope one of you loses.
Well, what you know is that I will eat the eggplant.
That's true.
If forced.
That's true. Well, if I win and you lose, we'll find something else.
All right, that is it for today's show. Enjoy the NFL Draft. Enjoy every minute of it. It's always fun each and every year. Check out the Ultimate Draft Kit for your fantasy football drafts at ultimatedraftkit.com.
So many good upgrades being made
Oh,
over
my
last
gosh,
year.
the cheat sheets.
People loved it last year, but we have been working really hard to make this better, and I'm very impressed right now with our offseason moves.
Mike's been out of town. He needs to see some of the work.
Oh,
We got to show him off.
And we have for the Join the Footers, we have a live stream here before the draft.
Yep.
So if you want to hang out and talk some draft,
We're
talk
staying
some
busy today.
whatever, talk some movies,
Yeah.
whatever.
And don't
Whatever.
forget, Tuesday's show will be reacting to the draft. We'll also have some mailbag in there, so you can go to the website, thefantasyfootballers.com, submit a question to us. Somebody asked us to remind them of the voicemail hotline. That's 302-464-TFFB. If you want to leave us a voicemail question, we'll get into some of that next week. Enjoy the draft. Enjoy the live stream if you're going to be by. Jointhefoot.com today, and we'll catch you later.
And check out fantasyjocks.com. You want to grab a trophy? Code is Footballers. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.